you've never been like chased away on a line before. So I want to move him just kind of what I was doing before, making sure that he'll move pretty freely. And I got to start teaching him how to change directions. So when the stick comes under, I need him to start feeling pressure out here and turn around. So he don't have a clue what that means at that point. So I'm going to keep pressing him over here, making it very uncomfortable where the stick's at. Uncomfortable, that's comfortable. So he decided to go to where there was no pressure. As soon as he did that, I backed off this pressure. And it's teaching him that getting overwhelmed and seizing up doesn't solve your problems. Again, the answer is you look at me and you go away from the pressure that I'm applying. So I'm going to try to change those directions again. So I'm going to bring my stick up here, start shaking it. He's not understanding what that means yet. I thought about going, so I backed off for a second there. And then now I'm going to push from this side so he goes that way. As soon as he starts going into the opening where there's no pressure, you stop shaking your stick. He's actually learning this pretty decent. So, and I'm looking that he can walk around and he's not overwhelmed. That looks good. When the stick comes under, start pressing him out there a distance. Keep making it uncomfortable over there until he chooses to go that way. So you can see his initial instinct when the pressure comes on is just to run forward. He's not thinking about looking at me and turning and going the other way. So when I'm doing this, the hand over here, this is the hand that's asking them to go to the left, and this is the hand that's telling them to go. So what he's got to realize is when this stick comes under and starts pressing over here, my hand changed too. He's got to start watching me closer. See, now he's focused on the flag. The flag can't help you. He's got to learn that no matter what the pressure is, look at me and I'll tell you which way or what you're supposed to do. He's got to realize that just because a stick shakes and makes a noise, and it doesn't mean it's time to go forward fast. He's got to look at me and see, what am I asking him to do? And nothing that I'm doing with his horses is random. There's a point to all of them. And they are incredibly observant. Once they figure out how to make their life the easiest, see, there he wants to go forward fast, so I may have to bump on his nose a little. And he's trying to ignore me, and I'm going to say, that's uncomfortable out there, buddy. Uncomfortable, uncomfortable, uncomfortable. Every time I go up a little, so he's getting irritated by all of this. That's all right. He's not going to get in trouble, and he's not going to get yelled at or anything. But I am going to maintain the pressure until he goes the way I ask. And that licking and chewing and the low head, that's a nice little gesture on his part that he'd like to get along. So I'm going to do the same thing. Now that time he pretty much started making his turn on his own. But yeah, what he's got to realize is that I'm not some crazy maniac with a stick that's trying to hurt him. I'm just showing him what he needs to know. You heard me talking about the two different sides of the horse. You can see one side's already starting to make a lot more improvement than this side. Good boy. And so, like, a lot of people will just take a horse out and do what they call lunging. And it's just mindless circles until the horse gets tired. And then they act better because they're tired. But then you start to ride or whatever, and they get their second wind, and because they were only acting good because they were exhausted, then their behavior starts to come undone when they get their energy back. So this is not lunging at all, this is sending, and the difference is these direction changes. This is a mental exercise. I'm not trying to exhaust this horse at all. I'm trying to show him you have to watch me. So there again, the head goes down, those are all really nice signs. He's clearly struggling with the direction change in that particular direction, but that's all I'm doing. I need him to realize when that stick starts shaking over there, look at me, my finger's pointing over there. Come on, buddy. Not gonna beg you. So because he was ignoring the stick pressure in the air, I started tapping him on the cheek. Not looking to beat on him, but why are you ignoring something waving that close to your face? That was a little better, but you still, like when he bowed up his head and neck, that was all attitude. He was giving me what I was asking, but begrudgingly. He's got a little attitude in him for sure. So that time he didn't let the stick get that close. I started at a distance, started getting closer and closer to his face. And if he doesn't choose to get out of the way from it, then shame on him for ignoring all the signs. So there he's looking for any other answer except for turning away. Good boy. Yeah, he's got to figure out, like I said, I'm not just trying to be something scary or crazy. There's a method to my madness. And I'm just focusing on being the calm voice of reason out here. I'm not getting upset with him. You know, it wouldn't matter if I was upset out of fear or anger. Neither one is better and neither one is worse. If you're afraid of them, it makes you unstable in their mind. Because in their mind, they can't understand why a predator who could kill them and eat them would be afraid of that. Like, this doesn't make sense. So if you're scared of something, then they should really be afraid of it because you could eat them. So when you get afraid, it unravels them. And when you get angry, it's exactly what they're expecting out of you because you're a predator, so now you're angry or tense, and they figure you're going to pounce on them. So yeah, the people who are afraid of the horses think the people who get mad are just outrageously harsh individuals, and the people that get mad look at the people that are afraid of them and think they're a bunch of wimps. Neither one is more right, neither one is more wrong. You have to learn how to be as gentle as possible, but as firm as necessary. And firm's not mean, firm's just firm. You know, I guess you can be firm and disrespectful, and you can be firm and respectful. I'm talking about you being very respectful of the horse, but the rules are the rules. And in my opinion, you're respecting them by holding them to an account because you know they're not just a bunch of morons and they can actually do the job. I have expectations. So somewhere, I don't even know where it's at now, years ago, on either our business cards or pamphlets or something like that, or maybe both. But I had a slogan on there, a saying that said, higher expectations for better understanding. And that's the problem, is people don't have expectations for what a good horse should be. I'm hoping to be able to show you this stuff and elevate your understanding of horsemanship. And then you'll start to raise raise the bar on what you expect out of your horse. So right there, he was doing everything he could to intimidate me. That's why he stood up tall and make himself bigger than me. Not that he's already bigger than me, but that was his angle. He was wanting to intimidate me and cause me to back off with a stick, and then he went, oh, you just rear up when you're uncomfortable and then you get your way. I didn't go to beating him about the face with my stick like a raging maniac, and I didn't cower in the corner going, oh my God, you reared up, what am I going to do? I just was the calm voice of reason. Was it a little stressful and challenging for both of us? Yeah, because I had to maintain pressure on him, being close to a situation where he could jump in any direction or strike out or whatever. But you just got to be there and help him through these little rough parts. But it's critical that he learns how to be sent back and forth. If he can't watch me and pay attention to something this simple, everything else I'm going to add to it is going to be harder on him. And once he gets this idea, maybe he's going to run forward, so I may just bump on his nose and make him realize that that's uncomfortable over there, uncomfortable out there, totally comfortable over there. And I love that his head drops. I mean, he's really sending like a Jekyll and Hyde, because this is absolutely soft and submissive and like everything you'd think you would be just a gentle little lamb once this happens. But as we've seen, sometimes he goes over there, not so much of a gentle little lamb. That was a nice turn. That took very little for me to get him to understand. So like I say, this is to go back to the lunging versus sending. Lunging is just burning calories, tiring them out. It's all one direction. And when they get their second wind, the same bad behavior is still there. This is not exhausting him in any way. This is working on his brain. The wrong way, so we'll just bump his nose, let him know it's uncomfortable out there. Good boy. But yeah, and I say this all the time, but people are training the horses' bodies. They're not training their mind. It doesn't even occur to them. Like, I don't think they even think it's a thing. Like, they just put their body through the routine or the pattern or the motion or whatever. They don't teach them what they need. Once your horse's mind understands what the requests are, their body already knows everything. You're not teaching horses to do magical maneuvers that they don't do. When they're out bucking and running and playing, and you'll see babies at 3, 4, 5 days old doing high-level maneuvers. But it's just in them that understand how to use their body that way. The problem is they can't then do those high-level maneuvers when you put a person on their back and they're cringing like, oh my God, this predator's gonna eat me, and you want me to do what? Like like the thought of using their body when they're totally cringing up is just, it's unfair for you to expect it, but they can't do it. A horse has to be comfortable to mentally learn anything. And once they have it, and you can talk to their mind, their body will just do whatever you have asked it to do. The body just does. They're a follower. You know what I mean? Like once the mind takes you somewhere, the body's coming with it. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you don't need to condition your horse if you have some kind of a, you're going to be jumping big jumps or running them long distances, then yes, you've got to build them up physically to prepare, but her body already knows how to do it. You got to make them stronger, baby. But, and the flip side of that is, when you're making a horse stronger that doesn't understand you, you've just created something to work against you. And that's what the lunging does. Not that I really intended to talk about lunging all that much, but people that just go out and run their horse around to make them tired before they ride, just like if you started practicing for a marathon, you might start with maybe a mile a day, and then after a week or so, you could run a mile and a half, and after another week or so, maybe you're running 2. And like I personally don't know how fast I would advance. I've never decided to run long distances, but I know that it's going to get more and more as you do it. Well, you take your horse out, and let's say you lunge him for 15 minutes to the left, and then 15 minutes to the right, and he's good and tired, you get out and go for a ride, and you do that same 15 minutes 3 days a week for a couple of weeks, all of a sudden, 15 minutes isn't going to tire him out anymore. You know, now it's going to take 20 minutes in each direction to get him to where he's tired. And then a few weeks later, or a month or two later, now it's going to take 30 minutes. And all you're doing is conditioning an animal to work against you if you're training their body. If you're training their mind, they'll give you 100% of their heart and soul. Cool body. And they'll work for you. What do you think, buddy? And he's not perfect at that yet, but I also don't want to spend too much time and kind of burn him on adolescence. So there he's kind of trying to ignore my stick. Now he's just paying attention to it, I'll take it away. So I'm going to give him an opportunity to chill out a little bit. Good boy. This is when they can really decompress and kind of learn to enjoy the quiet times, when they can let their feet be still. But you can't let their feet be still when they're really resisting the lesson that you're working on. So once you got to where you can make a couple of reasonable turns, I said I can't expect perfection because he's just learning this. So I got to give to him every chance I can, and it's going to encourage him to start working with me. The other thing that's going to get this horse to start working with me is he's going to start to think that I'm kind of reading his mind. Because I see when the nose comes in toward me, or I see when the head drops, or I see like a big blink of his eye. I see things that he's doing that I don't know if he knows he's broadcasting it, but it's something that I see that's letting me know that he's having a thought about changing his mind. And then I respond, and he realizes that he thought about paying attention to me or cooperating, and then I backed off, like before he even started to really cooperate. It becomes very intriguing to them when they start to think that you can see what they think. And you pretty much can see what they think if you know what their body language means. A horse does not at all have the idea or concept of misleading you. They don't care what you think. They're just showing you how they feel. They don't care if you think they're being spoiled or stupid or scared or mean or whatever. They don't care what you think. They're just going to show you how things make them feel. And then it's up to us to be able to observe that and understand what it means. Good boy. But all in all, I think he's pretty quiet. He's got a little bit of attitude when there's pressure on him. What do you think, buddy? But you don't seem crazy. So I'm just going to come out here and, not look at the horse and pay attention to him really at all. Shake that stick around. If he would have started to bounce around, then I would have kept doing it until he stopped. He thought about leaving. I could see him out of the corner of my eye, just kind of leaned to the side, but he never actually moved his feet. But I want him to realize that this stick and bag does not tell him to go anywhere. If this stick and bag makes a noise or a motion, if I don't follow it up with pointing or telling him, if I don't show him where he should be going, then he shouldn't be going anywhere or be distracted or overwhelmed by some kind of a bell or whistle kind of thing. Like, he needs to know that if I stay calm, now you can see that he was just leaning away from me there. That's what you say. I mean, I'd rather he wasn't doing that, but as long as his feet are still, we have the pressure. See how the head's going a little further away? He's got all his weight on one leg and the other leg's leaning real hard. That's just avoidance. I mean, it's not causing him so much discomfort that he's leaving. But he's definitely not saying, yeah, I like that, because it's uncomfortable to lean way over like he is, but that's what he was choosing to do. Good boy, buddy. But yeah, I'm teaching him that no matter what happens, if you pay attention to me, we can get through whatever situation it is. And that's, people are always worried about, like, what do I do if this happens? Well, when you're out riding your horse and something seriously goes down, it doesn't matter what you do right then and there. It matters what you've been doing the last 2 months. If you haven't done the homework, you're a sitting duck out there. But if you have taught your horse how to handle pressure, and then when your body language is calm and quiet, he can be chill and relaxed. Then when something happens, you bend him, you breathe, you get an intentional softness about you, and they're like, well, I was kind of freaked out by the flag or the stick or the whip or whatever it was, but as long as you're calm. But if you haven't done these things, when you need them, they're not going to be there. Good boy. So I didn't really get nearly as far as I had hoped I would today, but I'm just going to brush on the top of his back just a little bit, and as long as he stays good and quiet and stands there, we'll call it for him.